Today on Cerulean Skies, we're going to continue with Red Flag Mission 6 for the F-16 Viper. As this is an air-to-air mission only, we're going to drop some unnecessary hardware that we come equipped with by default. We naturally want to keep all of our air-to-air missiles and, for the moment, the external fuel tanks. But we do want to drop the T-Pod and the harm targeting system. That's just extra drag and weight right now, no point in carrying it along. Everything else, though, we're going to keep as default. While any of the missions might have some air-to-air combat included, this is the only air-to-air escort mission we're going to fly. The only mission where our only job really is to provide air-to-air cover for the strike fighters that are also going in with us. I'm happy to report that, by and large, many of the ATC bugs that have been appearing in the Red Flag mission have been resolved. And once again, you can get normal clearance to start up, to taxi, and to take off. So let's go ahead and get out to the runway and get going. In this mission, as is usually the case, you'll have 4 wingmen. Don't just go jetting off at full speed to your first steer point. Take a minute and do a single Marshall orbit counterclockwise as per the mission specs, circling at the racetrack, going back around behind Nellis and coming back into the direction of your steer point, keeping your speed to somewhere between 300 and 400 knots to give your wingmen time to catch up. Remember that at this point, the AI in DCS doesn't really calculate things like conservation of fuel, chaff or flares, or even weapons. And so if you do go jetting off to your steer point at full speed, without taking the time to do that Marshall orbit, your wingmen will attempt to catch up to you on full afterburner all the way, which means they are likely to hit bingo fuel long before you need them. Now, if you do take the time for conservation of energy, you're going to have lots of extra fuel since you're carrying 2 external fuel tanks this time. So you can just go ahead and launch on full afterburner. It is the safer way to launch after all. I'm going to get the gear up and begin that counterclockwise Marshall orbit just as soon as I pass the racetrack down on the lower left. You can see it off to my left now. I'll look that way.
Altitude.
Now this mission is a bit unusual as the Red Flag missions go because I can't really tell you whether or not you're going to have a lot to do in this mission. Sometimes you do when you play it, and sometimes you don't. I have flown this mission where fighters out in points in front of me have pretty much taken down all the air-to-air opposition, and in truth, been somewhat disappointed as I was hoping to practice my AA skills. And I've flown this mission with one dogfight after another. This mission here that I'm using to make this video proved to be especially challenging, as the advanced fighters did not take out all the opposition and there was plenty to do once we got on location. If you're aiming for full immersion, then practice good form, and as you do your Marshall orbit, do not fly directly over the runway. Stay to the outside of it. There are no specific rules where you have to stay, at least not within the sim, but stay to the outside. Don't get directly overhead of aircraft that are landing or taking off. Alright, Wingman 4 is off the ground now, so we are going to begin heading out to steer point 1. Along the way, I'm just going to change comms 1 to channel 16, make sure my Lima 16 data link is on, set the ship to run quiet, and order the wingmen to turn off their radars. I don't recall if you can order the wingmen to turn off the radars through the usual command menu. It's been a long time since I've used the command menu to control the wingmen or any other feature of DCS. I use VACOM and voice attack to talk to the wingmen, as well as ATC and JTACs and every other feature of DCS. And VACOM gives you many options that are not listed within that menu. You get a lot more control over your wingmen and get a lot more control over what you can tell them to do. Let's jump over to the map for a moment and talk about bullseyes, what they are and how they work. I have the cursor right now over the bullseye, which is a point on the map used as a reference. So if ATC says a target is west of bullseye, in this case bearing 270 by 33 miles, or bearing 90 by 30 miles, or south by however many miles. That would be the position of the target from the bullseye. In military operations, bullseyes are very useful, very helpful, and very important, because while the enemy might be able to intercept transmissions, they won't know where your side has set your bullseye, so they won't know what position references you're calling off. It's also, when you get used to using the bullseye system, a faster and easier to follow frame of reference than trying to hear location numbers such as GPS coordinates or MGRS coordinates. Sometimes ATC will give you coordinates based on the bullseye. This is typical with the request picture command. If you call AWACS, however, and request bogey dope, you will get a BRA, or BRA for short, stands for bearing, range, and altitude. They will tell you the bearing and range and altitude of the contacts that they feel are most relevant to you, with the position being relative to your aircraft. So if AWACS says BRA 100 at 30 for 29, what that means is the contact is at bearing 100 to you, 30 nautical miles away at 29 angels or 29,000 feet. We have some friendlies out there already heading in to do their mission. We're going to hold our position in orbit here, however. It's very important to watch the timing of your steps. Each aspect of a mission supports the next. And our flight plan states that we advance from our orbiting position at 35 minutes past the hour. We'll jump ahead and get the mission going. Now, the external fuel tanks that we are carrying create a lot of extra drag, so I'm going to go ahead in advance and get those tanks ready to drop. We have a long flight ahead of us, and we're going to fly at high speed at high altitude to maximize the capabilities of our AMRAAM air-to-air missiles. So I'll hang on to the tanks for the last possible moment, but I will preset them on the SJ page to be ready to drop. And when AWACS tells me that we have hot contacts only 40 nautical miles away, it's time to drop them. Unfortunately, I don't know of a way to order the wingmen to drop their tanks and their tanks only. If anyone does know of a method, please let me know. I'd like to also maximize their maneuverability, especially when we are going into these air-to-air engagements. It's a little odd that I can do things like order them to turn their radar off and on, and order them to assume one formation or another, but I can't tell them when to drop their external tanks. AWACS declared a pop-up group that's a group that's just launched at 262, or bearing 262 from us, at 45 nautical miles. Now, they're only flying right now at 8 angels. They could pose a threat, but we have the drop on them since we are a lot higher, and we're also aware thanks to our vigilant AWACS. We could send them some AMRAAM shortly, but we're only carrying 4 apiece, so I decide to hold my wingmen back. There are fighters in advance, and they are just too far ahead of us for us to really be able to help them against that pop-up group. Also, I don't want to risk hitting a friendly. Those fighters will have to deal with the pop-up group, and hopefully they can. If they can't, we'll mop them up when we get there. It's fun to get into the Hornet's nest, but an F-16 only carries up to 6 air-to-air missiles, so you have to also think about conserving what you have. Use them when you need them, and not before. But I'll keep abreast of what's going on ahead, both through my air-to-air radar through the MFD on the left, and by way of the HSD, showing enemy positions on the Link 16 on the right. A sudden loss of the red contacts is a good indicator that our friendlies have taken them out.
Colt 1-1, Dark Star 1-1, Bra 284 for 80 at 35,000 hot.
Bra 284 for 80 hot, and that's a new group heading our way. Hot means they're coming toward you, cold they're leaving.
Dark Star 1-1, pop-up group 274 for 30 at 6,000 hot.
And there's another group coming. It's going to get thick in there.
Colt 1-1, Dark Star 1-1, pop-up group 273 for 28 at 6,000 hot. Dark Star 1-1, pop-up group 274 for 2211.
Splash Bandit at Bullseye 151 for 15 at 25,000.
So there's plenty of enemy air-to-air resistance ahead, but we also have a lot of friendlies in there, and they're taking a lot of them out before we even get there. We need to save our missiles for when we are the line of defense, and we also don't want to fire into that Hornet's nest for fear of hitting friendlies. Out in the distance out there, that black column of smoke heading down, there's an enemy fighter heading to the dirt. You may have noticed I use the mouse very little to control the MFDs, the UFD, or much else on the aircraft. This is because the HOTAS I am using gives me a lot of ability to control everything on the stick and the throttle, And I've set up an iPad and an Android pad with Matrix and Touch Portal, which allows me to emulate controls such as the UFD and MFDs. While I like the virtual cockpits, it's not really the same thing as being there. And having to grab the mouse and struggle with it to contact and flip a switch or press a button, for me that's kind of immersion breaking. It just goes faster and smoother by creating the virtual controls. I find it makes DCS much more immersive and more fun. Anyway, if anybody's interested, in a future video I'll talk about Touch Portal and Matrix and how to use them. One of the great things about these applications is you don't need a powerful tablet. Heck, some junk made 5 years ago that you can pick up for under $100 is fine. But let me know if you're interested. We'll go into that in a future video.
Colt 1-1, Dark Star 1-1, Bra 329, 440 at 25,000 knots.
212, in from the east, engaging at bullseye 248 for 27.
Alright, you can see on the right MFD that we are the line of defense in here now. And we have a hot contact 40 nautical miles away. We're going to steer in to meet those guys. I've ordered my wingman to engage, and it's about to get really busy, way more busy than I was anticipating.
Springfield 1, showtime. You're dead.
That indicates one of our friendlies has been hit. This is only a training exercise, so he would go over to a waiting area and orbit until he's allowed to get back into the fray. Now when you hear that lock screech, it's tempting to panic, shoot and dive. But odds are they haven't launched on us yet. We're still a long way away. We need to take our time, keep our cool. And what I'm going to do is lock on 2 of their aircraft, and about the time my guys start firing, which is now, I'm going to send off a couple AMRAAMs too, and only then am I going to hit the dirt and take defensive measures.
Tusk 1, kill utility at bullseye 212, 419. Tusk 1, kill utility at bull 211, 421. P2000 knots.
Counter.
All players, Dark Star. West HQ7 destroyed.
Alright, I have one Fox 3 away. I'm going to lock onto a second bandit, get another AMRAAM off, and then take defensive measures. There are many thoughts and theories about defensive measures, but typically good doctrine is to turn 90 degrees to the oncoming missile and head to the deck. Air-to-air missiles exhaust their fuel supply in a matter of seconds, and by going lower, you'll exhaust their kinetic energy faster as they will experience increased drag. By turning latitudinally to them, they will have to turn constantly too, which is going to burn away their energy even more. Now, I made a mistake here. I should have dove right, and I meant to dive right, but at the last moment, for reasons I don't know, I chose to dive left. Well, that's why I was heading for that closer mountain over there, but I forgot there is an enemy SAM site down here. I realized it too late and started dumping chaff and flares as fast as I could, but I honestly thought I was dead. But either that missile missed, or he was targeting somebody behind me. Anyway, we lost a friendly strike fighter earlier, and now I know the enemy SAM's position, so I'm going to swing back and see if I can take him out. I don't have bombs, I don't have Mavericks, I'm going to have to do this with guns. We have a lot of friendly fighters in the air right now, and he's shooting missiles like crazy. It's my hope that he's going to be too tied up locking onto them and consider me a non-issue to expect that I would do something as crazy as coming around and attacking a SAM site with guns. We'll see how this pans out. I had lost this exact position, but that convenient missile launch he just did gives him away. Nothing like a smoke trail to tell you the origin point. Alright, we've gone to AG guns. Our range tab is winding down, so we are in range. This is going to be close, hard and fast, and quite possibly suicidal.
Altitude. Altitude. Pull up.
And that SAM launcher is toast. Sadly, up ahead, that black column of smoke that was just off to our right That was a friendly fighter that went down.
All players, Dark Star. West SA-15 destroyed.
But my gun hits on the SAM site took it out, so not only have we taken out their fighter defense package, but we won the mission for our team. So I'd call this overall a win, presuming I can get out of here alive. I am low to ground in thickly infested hostile territory, which means I'm vulnerable to SAMs, MANPADs, and even AAA. And if you look at the right MFD, you can see I am just about in the heart of an enemy SAM's range. However, I think that SAM's capability has been taken out because I detected no launches as I was fighting for altitude. I've been running a lot on Afterburner 2 ever since this fight began, and I'm starting to run low on fuel. And that's another concern. I need to get some altitude and get these afterburners off as fast as possible. Afterburners will burn fuel many times faster than standard thrust.
Join up.
So I've ordered my fighters to join back up, disengage with enemy aircraft. And the AI doesn't have fighters respond to the join up command, which is kind of frustrating, so I usually issue it several times just to make sure that the command was registered. In this case, what I did was, after ordering join up twice, I did a radio check. If they hear and reply to the radio check, then they also heard the join up command.
Colt 1-1, Dark Star 1-1, single group at Bulls 029-430 at 35,000.
That group is close, so we need more info. So I do a quick bogey doke call.
Colt 1-1, Dark Star 1-1, Bra 155-427 at 29,000 knots.
And there is nothing good in the AWACS reply. They have altitude, they are off at about 4 o'clock to me, and they are heading this way. And on top of that, my wingmen are otherwise engaged elsewhere. They are not in a position to provide support. I don't know what the enemy fighters are, but if I keep running, I'm giving them an opportunity to hit me, so I have to deal with this problem, even though I'd like to conserve fuel and head back for Nellis.
Colt 1-1, Dark Star, Bra.
Turns out 2 is nearby though, and he is giving assistance. Let me see if I can help him out in return. Let's pop over to the map for a bigger picture. Red Flag is a training mission and allows us to do that. Capable fighters would probably have shot at us already, but these are only MiG-21s. In their time, they were capable supersonic fighters, but they are long since outdated. Even if it's only me and my second wingman present, and even if their wing consists of 4, we should be able to handle them without too much trouble, except for the fact that we are rapidly running out of fuel.
Forward 1, Splash Bandit and Bull.
Counter.
65 for 45 at 30,000. 445 at 24,000 knots.
Anchor 2-5, we're instantaneous 28 and completed all assignment filling. We had a possibility of a regen refueling with Harley. Understand he's out of the fight.
Forward 1, Splash Bandit at Bulls 061 for 45 at 28,000.
Friendlies have called that they have gotten 2 of the bandits in the group that was ahead of me. But of greater concern to me at the moment is that group that's off between my 3 and 5 o'clock in closing.
Boogie dope.
Colt 1-1, Dark Star 1-1, Bra 175-423 at 35,000 knots.
They're high up close and moving fast, and I still can't see the buggers.
Counter.
Forward 1, Splash Bandit at Bulls 058 for 40 at 26,000.
Boogie dope.
Colt 1-1, Dark Star 1-1, Bra 175-422 at 35,000 knots.
They're only 22 miles away. I should be able to see them by now. And they are definitely close enough to open fire. I need to keep heading for home, but I also need to not get shot down. So the question is, do I turn and face them? Or do I try to get distance and get away from them? I need more info.
Boogie dope.
Colt 1-1, Dark Star 1-1, Bra 175-419 at 35,000 knots.
They're only 19 nautical miles away. I have to face them.
Colt 1-1, Dark Star 1-1, Bra 189-421 at 20,000 knots.
But I am also going to keep traveling in the direction of home to the last possible second because I really have to think about conserving fuel as well at this time. but I can see the bandits and a friendly's contrail off to the right at about 2 o'clock now. The friendly, who I think is Wingman 2, is well positioned on their 6, and I'm going to see if I can lend them a
Okie
hand.
doke.
Colt 1-1, Dark Star 1-1, Bra 173, 413 at 35,000 knots.
We'll go into dogfight mode and prepare to engage the enemy with short-range missiles. Our friendly has taken out one, and one of them has us locked.
All players, Dark Star. All strikers have egress.
Colt 1-1, Dark Star 1-1, merged.
Alright, one of my short-range missiles hit, that's one less in the air, and I still have 2 AMRAAMs remaining. And the truth is, I want to use them. I need to use them. I need to have as little drag on this bird as possible to be able to get home now for sure. Looks like one of the bandits has survived, and the last thing I want is to give him a chance to come around and get on my 6 as I'm trying to run for home. Let's go get him. I'll switch to missile mode and fire off these missiles Pitbull. It's fast and there are no friendlies I have to worry about getting in front of those missiles.
Forward 1, Splash Bandit at bullseye 075 for 29 at 30,000.
And he's hit, but I'm going to send him one more AMRAAM for good measure. I want that rocket off my ship because I am now flying on vapors. I need my drag as low as possible. I need to get out of the combat zone and get into blade land. Somewhere between about 20 and 30,000 feet, I'm going to aim for closer to 20 to maximize the ship's efficiency. And with the danger gone, I'm bugging out.
8 o'clock, 3. Missile launch, 8 o'clock. 4, engage defenses. 3, rejoin. 4, missile launch, 5 o'clock.
Lots of radio chatter about missiles being launched, but they don't seem to be anywhere near me. I don't see anything coming up in my direction. So I'm plotting a course almost straight for Nellis and heading back. Plotting a course is too strong a word. I'm simply going to punch my steer points all the way up to Nellis. I'm only at 16,000 feet here. I want to get up to about 20 angels. It doesn't have to be exact, but somewhere between 20 and 25 angels to really maximize the ship's fuel efficiency. That's an altitude where I can get good speed, good fuel efficiency, and on the off chance I find myself with another group of bandits on my 6, it allows me to quickly punch up some speed, dive for the ground, and run like hell. At least I don't have to worry about SAMs on the ground now. I just have to get home before I drop out of the sky. And oh look, there's number 2. He is closing in. He made it. Good for him. Actually, a quick radio check revealed that the other 2 wingmen made it too. They were just engaged and further behind me. Alright, well, the remainder of the flight was pretty routine. I've already called into ATC and requested permission to land. And since I'm not carrying any ordnance, anything but an ECM pod, and I'm running on fumes, the ship is really light, which makes her very easy to control right now. Calm weather on a calm day, I couldn't ask for more ideal conditions to land. So this final phase of the flight is pretty low pressure, pretty standard operating procedure. I hope you enjoyed this walkthrough of Red Flag Mission 6 for the F-16 Viper. If you have any questions, just post them below and I'll try to answer them if I can. I'm not a fighter pilot, I'm no drone pilot, but I'm also just a guy who loves flight sims. Thanks for taking the time to watch, and if you like what you see, I'll tell you in advance there'll be plenty more, not just on DCS, but on things such as Star Citizen, Nebulous, the Microsoft Flight Simulator, other mil sims, such as Squad and Command Modern Operations. And if you don't mind, it sure would help if you took a moment to like and subscribe.